What an unusual sight these days. Marching men. Soldiers marching all over the world. The airborne infantry also marches, but not far this time. They're plenty tough, trained for action anywhere, ready for it any time. On the ground, they can take care of themselves and the enemy. But in the air, these men are dependent on the flight crew of the troop carrier airplane, with a good share of responsibility resting on the pilot and co-pilot. For the success or failure of a mission can depend on getting these troops to the proper place at the proper time. Handling the C-47 skillfully comes only from a thorough knowledge of the characteristics and performance of the airplane. Take a good look at this man. There was a day not so many weeks ago when he was a transition pilot. A day when he first started to learn the do's and don'ts of flying the C-47. Let's go back to that day. Here's Lieutenant Warren, a few weeks younger and a lot greener, but not too green. He knows enough to realize that the best insurance against accident is to know his airplane. That's why he's checking on the crew chief. Tires checked for blister cuts, proper inflation. Hydraulic brake lines checked for leakage. Warren has been taught that there's more to his job than just sitting down in the driver's seat. A good half of this flying business takes place long before your wheels leave the ground. Look her all over, Lieutenant. They say it's easier to check on the ground than in the air. Here comes a man who'll agree with that statement. Warren's instructor, Captain Matthews.
All set, Lieutenant? From top to bottom, Captain. Okay, let's go.
Mind if we go along, Captain? Maybe we can pick up a few pointers. We want to see what a transition pilot learns after he's through with his groundwork.
Lieutenant, what's the first thing you do in the cockpit after checking Form 1A? Flip on the battery switches. Wrong. The first thing you do is adjust your seat so that your eye level hits the center of the windshield. Now those battery switches.
Landing gear next, sir? Right. Latch down and lock. Check. Pressure up 500 pounds. Check. Neutralize landing gear and flap levers. Check. Light green. Check. Horn operation.
Here it is.
Check. Autopilot hydraulic valve off. Check. Fluid level. Okay, sir. How's the fuel supply? Left main 200. Right main 200. Left auxiliary 100. Right auxiliary 100. Total 600, sir.
Good. Let's take the quadrant column now. Move the prop pitch controls back and forth to be sure they're free, and leave them full forward. The same applies to the throttle. Leave them 1/4 open, and the mixture control. Return to idle cutoff. Elevator tabs should be neutral. Oil shutters in proper position. Put carburetor air temperature controls in cold position. That's to prevent damage to the induction system in case backfiring occurs on starting. Set aileron and rudder tabs at 0. Turn autopilot off. De-ice is off. Parking brake on. Move cross seat valve on.
Right, sir.
Move static selector valve to top. Double check your gauge by setting your altimeter at field elevation. Tap the altimeter to remove any friction. Check your tachometer and airspeed indicator for zero reading. Check your clocks. Now test the flight controls. Make certain that your rudder pedals are even and adjusted to you, and that you have free and maximum movement of the rudder, elevator, and aileron controls. Look out the window to see whether your aileron is moving.
Right, sir.
Check flap indicators for up position. Engine cowl flaps open.
Yes, sir.
Now we'll go through the starting engine check.
Ready, sir?
If the engines have been standing in excess of 1 hour, they should be pulled through by hand with the switches off.
Of course.
However, Major Krebs had this plane up less than an hour ago, so we can proceed accordingly. Left engine tank selector, left main. Right engine tank selector, off. Propellers in low pitch, throttles 1/4 open, mixture control in idle cutoff, carburetor air cold, main ignition switch on, left ignition switch closed. Raise the fuel pressure to approximately 10 pounds per square inch with a wobble pump and keep it at that pressure. I'm going to start the left engine. With a fuel pressure at 10 pounds, momentarily move mixture control out of idle cutoff position to rich. This facilitates priming. You then operate the starters by moving left starter switch and safety switch up to start. When the starter has reached speed, pull down on both switches.
Right, sir.
Mesh. As soon as engine fires, move mixture control immediately to auto rich and pull back on the throttle. Keep the wobble pump working until the engine is functioning smoothly. Don't work it up and down too fast. Idle the engine to between 600 and 800 RPM until the oil pressure shows on the gauge. Pressure up, sir. You then adjust the throttle to 1,000 RPM. Stop the engine if oil pressure doesn't respond within 30 seconds. Now you start the right engine. You may not be able to hear the start of the 12 to 15 seconds you bring it up to speed. You've overloaded your engine.
Uh-oh. Sorry, sir. I forgot to return the mixture control to idle cutoff. Well, where do we go from here?
Move your throttle in a wide open position. I'll re-engage starter. As engine begins to fire, retard throttle and return mixture control to auto rich. That's the idea. Here's your radio switch. Leave your left earphone off so he can hear me.
Right, sir?
Call the tower for taxiing instructions. close the throttles gradually. Don't ever accelerate the engine fast enough to cause damage to your gear train. I release pressure on the toe pedal just before stopping to avoid brake locking or jerking the plane. And remember, Warren, don't ever turn with one wheel locked. Always keep the inside wheel moving slowly.
Right, sir?
Next, we'll go through the engine run-up and pop check. Warm up the engines from 800 to 1,000 RPM. Keep the prop controls in low pitch until the oil temperatures reach 40 degrees centigrade minimum. Cylinder head temperature should not exceed 232 degrees centigrade. Adjust the engine speed to 1,500 RPM. Now move the left prop control from low to high pitch. No decrease in RPM and increase in the manifold pressure. This also serves to bring warm oil to the prop dome. After a pause of from 10 to 12 seconds, return the left prop control from high to low pitch. Now we run the left engine to 2350 RPM. At the same time, check the manifold against the RPM to make sure that both engines are putting out approximately the same power. Check both mags at 27 to 30 inches manifold pressure. Check, sir. The drop-off from two mags to either one should not exceed 75 RPM. Now you go through the same procedure with the right engine.
Prop controls to high pitch. RPM decreases, manifold pressure increases. Return to low pitch. Throttle, run up to 2350. Check manifold pressure and RPM. Check both mags at 27 to 30 inches. Drop off from both mags to 1 should not exceed 75 RPM. It all checks, sir.
That's fine, Lieutenant. Now go through the takeoff check.
Fuel selector mains. Mixture rich. Carburetor heat full cold. Oil shutter okay. Trim tabs neutral. De-icer valve off. Prop full low. High RPM. Cross feed valve off. Cowl flat. Trail. Wing flaps up. Check for freedom of flight controls. Generators on. Set gyros.
As co-pilot, here are your takeoff duties. Watch the pressure instruments. Be ready to use the wobble pump whenever necessary. As soon as the manifold reaches takeoff limits, apply additional tension to the throttle locking mechanism. Also, guard the throttles from creeping back like this. Check RPM. I'll give you the signal when to retract the landing gear, and as soon as your wheels are up and the red light indicates the retracted position and the landing gear pressure dial shows 0, return the landing gear valve to neutral. You got it?
On the beam, sir.
Oh, and let me know if you spot any irregularities in the engine or instruments. All right, call the tower.
Neutral.
Throttle back to 35 inches manifold. Giving 2450 RPM. Cruising engine car flap should be closed and the valve returned to off position. Reduce engine power to desired cruising setting. Put the mixture control in auto lean. Change to auxiliary tank. Be sure you change the gauge with the tank. Now I'll show you how the autopilot operates. First, make sure your gyros are uncaged. I'll adjust the speed control valve. Set the rudder knob so that the rudder follow-up card matches the directional gyro card. Then set the aileron follow-up index so that it matches the bank index. Then set elevator alignment index to follow-up elevator follow-up index. Turn hydraulic oil pressure valve to on. We're ready to let the autopilot take over.
That's quite a gimmick. Does everything but cook.
Don't get too sold. It's still all right, but it shouldn't be used unless conditions permit of safe control.
Meaning?
It shouldn't be operated unless one rated pilot is on watch maintaining a close check on the plane and instruments.
Hey, what's that?
Only the window fastener. That's something I forgot to check. While we're at it, let's check the autopilot. Let's see how taking on a little altitude affects the trim. Disengage the pilot. Make the necessary correction in trim.
Doesn't take much to throw this ship off, does it?
Very little. Changing altitude, giving the C-47 more power, or a shift in load will easily throw it out of trim.
While we're on the subject, Captain, how about giving me some of the tones?
Very well, Lieutenant. To begin with, don't fly the C-47 at over 207 miles per hour, or do more than 255 in a glide. It's not a fighter job, you know. Maneuvers such as dives, spins, loops, Immelmans, inverted flight, and so forth are definitely out.
In other words, you'll act nice so long as you don't try to play around.
Time to go home. Want to give the car a buzz? Change fuel quantity gauge switch. We'll go back to the main tank. Let's go through the approach check now. Cross feed valve should be off.
Check. Wing de-icer valve. Off. Both autopilot valves. Off. Mixture manifold set to auto rich. Car flaps in trail position. What's my airspeed? 150. Altitude? 1200. Gear down. Gear down and let. Light green. Pressure up. Neutral. I have a wheel. I have a wheel. Is the tail wheel locked? Locked. I'm willing to press the brakes to check for normal pedal pressure. We're starting our base leg now. Give me 1/4 flap. 1/4 flap. On the final approach, I'll take 3/4 flap. Check. Unlock the tail wheel and open the cowl flap. And that's all there is to it. Except, of course, that in the C-47, as in any airplane, the landing isn't complete until the wheels have stopped moving. Is the procedure very different for a single-engine landing? There's a single-engine checklist on the hatch. It's really easier to show you than explain. Let the tower know what we're up to and I'll demonstrate. Tower from Army 25. Mechanical failure of the engines and propellers, remain cool. Take time to determine which engine isn't functioning properly. Okay, here we go. First, I increase the power of the good engine to maximum required. Enrichen the mixture. Then I put the propeller on the good engine in low pitch. When do you change the gas selector valve to the tank with the most fuel in it? Right now, that's the next step. Left rein, sir. I close the oil shutter on the bad engine. Check the gear up, flaps up. Gear up, flaps up. I pull the throttle of the bad engine back. Also the prop pitch control. And I return mixture control to idle cutoff. Now we're ready to feather that prop, so we hit the feathering button. After the prop is feathered, cut your ignition switch and turn off gas tank selector for bad engine. Set fire extinguisher selector valve to bad engine. Adjust mixture of good engine to emergency position. Turn off battery switch on bad engine. Recheck landing gear and flaps for full up position. Gear up. Flaps up. Shift hydraulic system to good engine.
Adjust power so that RPM is increased by 100 for every 2 inches of manifold pressure used above 30 inches. Use minimum power required. If more than maximum rated horsepower is necessary, put prop control in full low pitch.
I notice you keep the plane at about 120 miles an hour.
That's the recommended cruising speed. During single-engine flight with any appreciable power being used, control can't be maintained below 85 miles per hour. Best results are obtained if the fuselage is held parallel to the line of flight.
What's the reason for dropping the wing on the live engine side 3 degrees?
Because I want to counteract the skidding effect of the rudder force. This attitude produces minimum drag and maximum cruising speed with a given power. Catch on?
Yeah, I get it. But to keep all that stuff in your head, you sure have to be a walking check order.
Or a flying one. But don't worry, Warren. When you get onto it, you'll be able to feather a prop or adjust a one motor in a matter of seconds.
Now, but there are about 20 steps to go through.
All right, figure a second for each step. It took me longer just now because I was explaining it to you as I went along. Here, I'll unfeather the prop and show you what I mean. In unfeathering, with throttle closed and prop in decrease, you switch the ignitions of both. Check. Make sure mixture control is in idle cutoff. Turn engine fuel tank selector to desired tank. And push the feathering button and hold until the prop windmills to between 600 and 800 RPM. I'm releasing the feathering button. Move mixture control to auto rich. Advance throttle and prop controls gradually to let the engine warm up.
Only you're cutting her again to show me that feathering a prop can be done in 20 seconds.
Right. Blessed by a good pilot. Get your stopwatch ready. All set?
Right, sir.
She is.
Hey, that's all right.
It's all a knowing how, Lieutenant. Most of our transition pilots have the wrong idea of how long it takes to get this airplane operating properly on one engine. If they get this procedure down pat, there'd be a lot fewer accidents.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now for that single-engine landing. We're clear with the tower, aren't we?
Right, sir.
This approach is pretty much the same as landing without flaps. But when you're certain you'll make it out of the field, lower your flaps. Keep your airspeed at 95 to 100 on approach. Then when you're ready to land, your rudder flatness should be returned 2 to 3 degrees from neutral. Then it's regular procedure. Gear down.
Gear down left.
And that's all there is to it. Except, of course, we've got to start the other engine before we can taxi. Idle at 1,000 RPM to cool the engines below 180 degrees centigrade.
Now the next step. Reach for 41A. you kept the flaps down after contact with the ground.
There's two schools of thought on that. But some pilots spill them. I leave them down to serve as an air brake. They also help to retard the forward roll.
That was the first day for Lieutenant Warren. His introduction to the C-47. He came to know that ship a lot better in the days that followed. Got to know the inside of that cockpit so he could reach for every control with the familiarity of a skilled carpenter reaching for his tools of trade. He came to know and trust those instruments on the panel in front of him as real friends who, when understood, can help make flying the C-47 more of a pleasure than a job. Yes, piling up those necessary hours of transition training taught Lieutenant Warren many things. Safety in the air and on the ground became a matter of habit. Little things like checking to see if the crew chief had locked the rudder, elevator, and ailerons became important things to this man, whom so many others would soon depend upon. You remember where we first met him. Let's put him right back up there, in the cockpit of that C-47 where he belongs. He and his co-pilot, twin custodians of the lives of these men. They've got to be good, these pilots of the Troop Carrier Command. They've got to be good to fulfill the command's motto. He conquers who gets there first.